Hello there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here. Sorry this video is one day late. I have been in Asia at a conference. I got back this morning, so recording the videos and putting your email out tonight. This video is the genre list for Shortcuts, which price list will be published 9 p.m. Sydney time this Wednesday, the 14th of May, and it features jazz, soul, funk, blues, bossa nova, maybe a couple of extra things, who knows. If you are not on the mailing list and would like to be, drop me an email, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com. Now, this week, firstly, those of you who've not received an email update from me from last week might be wondering where that is. That is just because I've been away. That'll get taken care of in the next day or two. And bundles will be posted out as per usual. Now, this week is a special week because everyone who buys a record this week will go into a draw, and the winner of the draw will win a prize, and they will choose from one of these three records. So everyone who buys a record goes into a draw. The more records you buy, the more chances you get in the draw. That's the way it works. There's 24 records for sale this list, so there'll be 24 opportunities. If you buy more than one record, you have a really good chance of winning one of these. This is the BBC Library reference copy of The Big Generator by Yes. So that's one. You can also buy the Tom Robinson Band 2 with the inner. I believe this is a UK press. It's an absolutely pristine condition. Or you can choose a European press, also in pristine condition, of Albert King and Otis Rush, Door to Door, which features Searching for a Woman, Howling for My Darling. It's actually a great compilation. So one of you who buys a record this week will get to choose an extra little surprise and delight feature for your package. Any questions on that, just drop me a line. Again, if you would like to be on the mailing list for the price list this week, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com. Okay, now the kickoff record for this list is a jazz record. Happens to be one of my all-time favorite jazz records, and I've been waiting a really long time to get a duplicate so I could put it in at the top of the list. Let me show you some of my collection from this particular musician. How about this? Mingus by Charles Mingus. We have The Clown by Charles Mingus. These are all in my collection. And this third record is the one where I've been fortunate enough to get a duplicate. It is called The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady by Charles Mingus. And it says just here under, from a poem, touch my beloved's thought while her world's affluence crumbles at my feet, which is not unusual for Charles Mingus, who was a very socially conscious person. So this is the new copy that I've got on the Impulse label. It's in fantastic condition. So why is this the lead-off record? Well, Charles Mingus is a double bassist, a pianist, a composer, a band leader. He was known for his really innovative approaches to jazz. He was unusual, I think, in some respects for a jazz player of such renown, in that he was raised in Los Angeles. He wasn't born there. He was still born in the desert, though. And he incorporates gospel, classical music, and a little bit of the avant-garde into what he does. His songs and compositions often were deeply personal. His live performances were apparently really quite something. His social activism, and he was a very complex person and an incredible musician. Seriously, he is the only double bassist that I will listen to. It is not an instrument, a lead instrument, or a typical band leader instrument for me, like Grant Green on guitar, Art Blakey on drums. Charles Mingus is a new discovery for me, probably in the last 2 years. I absolutely adore this album. It is one of my more idiosyncratic jazz records in that my wife absolutely loathes it, but so I can only play it when she's not out. But it is great. I do love that impulse banner. It's just wonderful. So what is the Black Saint in the Sinner? Well, this is a record that's got, definitely you can hear flamenco, classical. It is very structured and very cohesive, and quite intricate, but always, and this is the key for me, thoroughly entertaining. Even as a headphone listen, it is thoroughly entertaining. I get a lot out of it every time, and it is one of these albums where the pieces of music all have their own distinctive mix, and they're called like track one, track A, track B, track C, track D. I think my favorite is track C, Group Dancers, which is one of the most dynamic tracks I think I have in my entire collection. I don't know enough about jazz to really put this in the canon. All I know is I love it. I know it was originally meant to be a jazz ballet, which I think tells you a lot about Charles Mingus. So this is Charles Mingus, the Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. Give this a listen. It really resonated with me. I absolutely love it, and I'm delighted that it is in the list. And when you see what it beat out in terms of being a lead-off record, you'll understand just how much I love it. For example, number 2 on the list, again, something I've been waiting on for a long, long time. Curtis Mayfield's Superfly. On the Buddha label, look at that. And look at the shots from the movie. Director Gordon Parks Jr., starring Ryan O'Neal, Carl Lee, Philip Fenty. There's the amazing Buddha Records seal of approval. The spine is a little bit worn, but you know what? Other than that, it's in really, really nice shape, and the record's great. Curtis Mayfield, singer, songwriter, guitarist. What a guitarist, by the way. Oh my God. I'm like Charles Mingus, socially conscious, but sings, of course, in this head voice, this falsetto. Started out his career with the Impressions before going it alone and diving into civil rights and urban life in ways that, for me, park him somewhere in the kind of Marvin Gaye, what's going on kind of spotlight. This record, of course, is really orchestral. The instrumentation is outrageous. It is a delight from start to finish. I don't own many soundtracks. It is really not something that I kind of lean into and spend a lot of time with. But the soundscapes and the tracks, and then going back and watching the movie. And this wasn't just me. This record was a commercial juggernaut. Last I read, it was something north of maybe 5 or 6 million copies, and it is a real crunch of soul and funk and soundscape. It is really something. I mean, it's inspired generations of musicians now at this point, and is a lot of people's favorite record. And the Japanese presses of this are absolutely superb. Of course, Superfly became the signature song, but there are so many. There are so many. I think, it's just one of those records. It should be in most people's collections. I think it's just one of those. It's just one of those amazing, amazing things. Freddie's Dead, Pusher Man, so many. And talking about Pusher Man, this was the link to the third record in the list, which is another all-timer. This is the Japanese, I believe it's the Japanese first press. I'm going to have to go and check. Of Nina Simone's I Put a Spell on You from 1965. The reason I think it's the first press is because it doesn't have the insert, but it has everything in Japanese on the back, which suggests that this comes from the 60s, because by the 70s that was not the practice. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of research on this. It's on the Blue Mercury label, which also makes me think that it might be a first press. If it isn't the first press, it's in stupendous condition. So why am I so big on this record? Well, many of you know I'm a big Nina Simone fan anyway. This is her kind of 1965, one of her many transition points, bearing in mind she comes from North Carolina, she's living in the South, she's a classically trained musician and a really, from a very early age, a really special vocalist. But her music spanned jazz, blues, classical and folk. And in some ways, there's a lineage here from Mingus to Mayfield, and prior to that, Nina Simone. These are all musicians who grew up in that kind of melting pot of American music and absorbing influences that are really quite, in some ways, quite alien to me and you. By the way, if you've not gone out and watched the movie Sinners that's in theaters right now, go this weekend. I went to see it. Holy moly, what a great movie. And I don't want to give too much away, but it is not a stretch to say it's a movie about the blues. And so loved it. And love this album too. This album, I Put a Spell on You, which of course features Feeling Good, was Nina Simone kind of spinning toward commerciality. More orchestral arrangements on top of her vocal performances, but she still remains incredibly haunting and emotive, and her singing range is just pretty much, iconic for a reason. Another artist that my wife can't stand, but that I love. The sophistication in this record, I think, comes from Nina Simone's deep musical education, and it's a wonderful record. And if that is the first press, that's a pretty special thing. All right, where do we go from here? How about this? I don't think I've ever had this before, but I've checked on my own. I've got this on my own. Look at this picture here. I love this. Look at that. The Isley brothers. Has anyone guessed what the record might be? If I were to say to you that a song on this record was sampled by a hip-hop artist, and that song became one of the most iconic hip-hop songs of all time, if I were to tell you that hip-hop artist was Ice Cube, and if the song was It Was a Good Day, you might know that it was sampled from the song Footsteps in the Dark from Go For Your Guns by the Isley brothers. This record is great. It is actually unusual for me to have 4 albums kicking off the genre list that are all vying for being in my top 20, 30 albums of all time. And that is just 100% the case. Isley Brothers, originally from, I'm pretty sure it was Ohio, kind of Midwest. They began, again, the similarities, they began in gospel, they began in the church, and then evolved into this group, in this case, straddling soul and funk and rock music. And part of that rock tendency is what has made them so accessible over the years. The guitar playing on this record is utterly fantastic. Now, I am absolutely struggling to remember the name. Ernie Isley. Oh my gosh, what a guitar player. This record slams. And climbing up the ladder, parts 1 and 2, the track that opens side 2 is just so great. I just love this. I love this album. Another band that has a very deep and clear relationship with politics and social improvement for the black community, and therefore well worth anyone's time. If you like your soul funk with a rock edge and an incredibly rhythmic production quality, then just go for it. Just go for it. It's and Footsteps in the Dark. My son Finbar, he loves his hip hop. He loves that song. He loves that sample. He will listen to Footsteps in the Dark as well. It's that good. All right, we're going to move into, we're going to keep in the 70s actually, because that Isley Brothers record's mid-70s. This is a bossa nova record from 1973 that is a classic of the genre. It is Jobim by Antonio Carlos Jobim, who obviously, for those of you who love this type of music, will know that he wrote The Girl from Ipanema. Now, he was a Brazilian composer, pianist, guitarist, and I think it is not beyond the pale to say a Brazilian kind of icon. This is an album. I listened on the plane on the way home. I downloaded a whole bunch of these. That is another one of those records that mixes genres. So it has that bossa nova feel, but it is also quite orchestral. So I think, like Simone, Antonio Carlos Jobim has a genius in orchestration and arrangements that you will hear. I did look up. This record regularly appears in the list of the greatest Brazilian records of all time, and it's a really cool sleeve as well. So some of you out there might know more about this than me, but I was delighted to see it in the list, and oh my gosh, now what do I say about this? The next three records, I couldn't believe my eyes when they all appeared in the same box. This is the album Bootsy, Player of the Year, featuring the iconic bass player Bootsy Collins. It comes in gatefold, and there he is on the rather spectacular interior. But what you probably can't tell is that these glasses here, you can press those out of the sleeve and make your own glasses so that you can be like Bootsy. What's also special, those of you who are eagle-eyed may well have already noticed this, and that means this is a white label promo, and honestly, from what I can tell, I am not sure that Needle has ever hit wax with this record. It is pristine. The inserts are perfect. This sleeve is immaculate. The obi is clean. The whole thing is just immaculate. That's the record. Why? Bassist from Cincinnati. He is instrumental in the P-Funk sound, became a funk icon. This record is very typical. I have this record already. It's very typically the loping, kind of almost signature bass lines, really funny lyrics, and this genre hops really into more R&B. Tracks like Bootzilla, Hollywood Squares, I think, may well be my favorite, because it almost sounds like a funk musical. It's very theatrical, and typically Bootsy. I think Bootzilla probably was his biggest hit. I can't think of many that would have been bigger, but that track in particular has entered P-Funk mythology. That's Bootsy. What a cool thing. All right, these next two are here just because I've asked the folks in Shinjuku to put these in my box every time they see them, because they are that good. I'm going to put these two up as a pair. This is Exodus by Bob Marley, complete with obi in immaculate condition. The reviews of this on Discogs are glowing for a reason. Those of you who've been here, it would not be beyond the pale for me to have played you something from this record. It sounds great, as does this, my favourite Bob Marley record, Rastaman Vibration. And because this is the first press, it comes with this, the scrapbook. This is great. It is all in English. It is all newspaper excerpts and reviews, concert reviews, interviews from the time. It is absolutely superb. I do not know why Island didn't do more of these. It is worth, the Japanese first press of this record sounds stellar, but that, if you're a fan, that scrapbook is almost worth the price of entry alone. Now, the next 4 records are all records that we'll have seen in my list before, so I'm just going to peel through them pretty quickly. And if anyone wants to know more about, those Marley records in particular, just let me know. It was the only album, by the way, Rastaman Vibration, that entered the US top 10 in his lifetime, which I think maybe shows where he could have gone. It's such a shame. These next 4 are all approaching iconic status here in the world of shortcuts. You all know how much I love Millie Jackson. This is her follow-up to Caught Up. It is called Still Caught Up, and it features still the love triangle that was described in the utter classic Caught Up. This is brilliant as well, in fantastic condition, complete with obi. I had made some notes. I think I've covered most of Millie Jackson stuff before. To be frank, pretty much every week, because Millie Jackson, I'm kind of half obsessed with her. This, you all know how much I love the Probe pink label. This is the Japanese first press of Completely Well by B.B. King. This is up there with Indianola, Mississippi Seeds as the greatest record that B.B. King recorded in his lifetime. B.B. King from Mississippi, another defining figure in modern American music. This time, the blues influenced Clapton, Vaughan. They all loved B.B. King. This was a crossover hit because of The Thrill Is Gone. I think his signature song, but this record went on to win the Grammy in 1970. I think I don't know if they had a blues category. I'm not quite sure, but it's been entered into the Grammy Hall of Fame. It's incredible. Ed Zizmik, or however you pronounce that guy, he did the string arrangements. He just did an incredible job. He did the string arrangements on Indianola, Mississippi Seeds as well. I've got John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman. I think one of the most romantic albums I have in my collection. It is so lush. In fact, there's a song on there called Lush Life, and there's another one called My One and Only Love. I give you a sense of the sheer lugubriousness of this album, the instrumentation, the original, I think the impulse cut on Japanese vinyl is as good as you'll ever need, and it really isn't very expensive. If you want a really lush, beautiful, romantic jazz album in your collection, I think that one's as good as it gets. And then this record that is Shortcuts royalty, i.e. it has sold more than 50 copies. That is look at this, original blue and green Atlantic label, gatefold with obi of Otis Redding's The Immortal, published after his sad death, featuring the happy song Amen. It's just a powerful, a powerful commendation of the man and his life. I also love Nobody's Fault But Mine. The opening track, I've Got Dreams to Remember, is wonderful. All right, there's your genre mix. As a reminder, anyone who buys any of these records will be entered into a draw, and you will get to pick from Yes, from Tom Robinson, and from Albert King and Otis Rush. Someone will get an extra little goodie in their box. Any questions, drop me a line. If you would like to be on the price list, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Look out for the next list. Thank you. Bye.